And we are now live. Come on in, everybody. So, welcome to the Think Tank Thursday. And we've done a little twist, Mary, right? Because normally
We
you're on
have.
this side of the microphone asking the questions, but now I'm going to ask the questions. So, I promise
Yes.
to make this really, really difficult for you to
Right.
ask all the tough questions. I'm only joking. I'm only
I
joking.
know you are. I know you are. I'm not even worried about it. It'll be great. It's awesome to be able to chat. It's been a bit.
It has. It's been a little while, all right. So it's been a busy time, I know, for you, and not only in your business but in PPA and all that's been going on there, and deciding what you're going to do, what you were going to do with imaging, and then making the right decision, and then getting ready for virtual imaging. But sure, we're going to delve into all that today.
Yes.
So, so Mary, for people who, I don't know whether there is a photographer who doesn't know you, but just in case there's
Oh, I'm
not,
sure there
right?
are. There's lots of them. Yes. So I'm Mary Fisk-Taylor. I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and here in the U.S. And my business partner, Jamie Hayes, and I have owned a higher-end portrait studio and wedding for 25 years. Actually, our anniversary was just a couple weeks ago. And
Congratulations.
yeah, so that, and then about 10 years ago, my mom and sister and I opened a volume studio where we do volume private schools, lots of high school seniors, that type of thing. So cool thing is I get to be a part of both sides of that business, and that's where I am today. I'm in the fun studio, I call it. It's got, look at this picture. It's a little bit of a mess right now because we're in busy season, as you can imagine. But yeah, I've done this a long time. Didn't mean to be. I kind of am an accidental photographer. Like, I didn't mean to end up here, but after I went to college and went to school, this is just where I kind of ended up because I was a new mom and I didn't want to go back full time and go back to the grind there where I was, because I worked in politics and I worked for a law firm. And I thought I'd do this just a little while, and 25 years later, I'm still here. They just can't get rid of me. So
So so what? Okay, so you wanted to spend more time as you were having your children, and you thought
mhm,
the photography business was a good way to do that.
yeah,
And then you met Jamie along the way, and you formed a partnership in business.
he was
But
my photographer.
okay,
Yeah, he
okay,
was my photographer, and he had just opened his own studio. And I'd had my daughter, he'd photographed my bridal portrait. So I met him, when I got married. Didn't know him, but when I had my daughter, I'd had such a great experience with Jamie that I looked him up and I found him, and he had just opened the studio. And I started bringing my daughter in, like we do, the newborn pictures and that type of thing. And then he was getting very behind on my orders. Like, I'm all about efficiency and all this stuff. And I knew he was incredibly talented, but it was obvious that he was in over his head. And the cool thing is what happened was he opened the studio and it just kind of got busy real fast. And here, guys, this is 25 years ago. So we're film based, we're not, it's a much different situation than it is now, but he needed help. And to be very honest with you, I did not love being a full-time mom. Like, I really needed to get out of the house a few hours a week and do something with my brain besides take care of my amazing kids who I adore. But it took me a long time to just admit that was not for me. So I started just kind of helping part-time and just handling client relations, sales, never picked up the camera. Like, becoming a photographer was never on my list, but I love business and I love good business and I love profitable businesses. And as you know, so I started helping, and then one thing led to another, and the kids, they get their own little life going on, and I had more time and more time, and here we are 25 years later. And I kind of started helping at weddings and started shooting, and then kind of developed my own client base. And I've always loved photography. I just worked on a personal paper recently, Ronan, and actually I haven't shared this, but I worked on a personal paper recently about why I am where I am. And it really goes back to growing up in an incredibly working class homes and everything, but we always had money and bought pictures. And those were the most precious things in our home. We hear this all the time, right? If your house was burning down, you grab we always hear this after of course, the people and the pets. But like, I mean, I remember us just being like really struggling, like paycheck to paycheck, but we were going to go to Olin Mills or whatever the strip mall studio was and get a family picture every year. And my grandmother proudly displayed those 8x10s. I'm gonna tell you right now, you know, they weren't even that good, but it just was not even a question. We were gonna do that. So my love of photography and the fact that I know how incredibly important and crucial it is, it was kind of drilled into me at a very young age by accident. Like so I've always loved it, but I didn't mean to become a photographer. And I don't know I would be that good at it if it wasn't that I also could feed my business brain as well. So, you know, if I had to choose, to be very honest with you, and this isn't super romantic or sexy for all you great artists out there, I would just do the business all day long. But it is fun that I get to be creative and do those, you know, have those special clients and create things. But yeah, that's why I'm here where I am.
So that's really interesting that, you know, that it was sort of from a very young age, even though you didn't realize it, you were being, and you know, that the importance of photography and capturing those relationships and having them as memories forever sort of was what's the word I'm looking for? That it was just normal for you.
Oh, it was just like, yes. I mean, we literally, my grandmother, um, she had a little, like essentially a mason jar that, you know, that's the picture money went in there, just like you would have a grocery money, but she would save, literally it could be change that week, but she was going to have pictures of her family. And, you know, obviously I'm 50, right? So my grandmother, a little bit over 50 plus, my grandmother, you know, grew up in the Depression, but even way back then, she had like coffee table drawers full of old pictures, old black and white, old CB, because even back then, the guy would travel through the town, and her mother or grandmother would make sure that they got a picture, you know? So it just was it was a priority. Whereas I know that that's not everybody's cup of tea, or that may not be how everybody grew up, but it's just how I grew up. So it was very normal to me. Like when I found out I was going to have a baby, one of the first things I said is I got to find that photographer, because she will be photographed at the stage. It just was like part of having a kid. Find a photographer because you were going to start the baby album and you were going to do these things. So it just so incredibly normal to me that I just assume everybody's that way, which I understand they're not. But it's just kind of funny that I ended up in this business. And I mean, I've been doing this, like I said, for a long time. It wasn't until I sat down and wrote that paper that I really realized why I'm here. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I had no idea. I'd never given it a second thought. But when I really stripped down and like started really looking at it, because that's a big question, and one, frankly, that I don't normally make the time for. But when I really made myself dig deep, I remember that I was sitting up in my room working on it, and just like, it was like a flood when I realized how it all came together. And I don't know why I never realized it before, but now it's forefront of my mind, and it's cool. You know, it's kind of cool that I ended up here. I mean, we never would have been able to afford us. When we were growing up, we never could have had a Hazen Fisk portrait. Like, that would have been so outside our budget. But you know, we could not afford to make sure we took the time to do it.
So to stay in the past, Mary, so when you got involved in the business then, how did you evolve the brand and your marketing? You know,
Yeah.
did you sit down someday and create a plan, or how did you approach it?
Yeah, so I'm an incredibly strategic thinker, so that's definitely a big part of who I am as a person, and certainly as a business person. So when I started working with Jamie, what I knew was he was incredibly talented. Like, but he was not, the business part was really hard for him. So I knew that would be my role. I realized, so it's pretty easy, guys. If you have a business and you look around, what I did is I did at that point, now guys, we're talking 25 years ago. So it was incredibly in fashion back then that everything was on either a pastel or a high key background. A lot of times it involved a very weird prop, like a half chair or wicker thing. It's just the time, right? I have all those pictures, you know, of my kids. It's, you know, that's when they were growing up. But what I realized is we had this really cool little studio and we had an amazing piece of property. And believe it or not, 25 years ago, people didn't go outside and take pictures. It was very rare that it was environmental photography. So the first thing I did was took out a big ad, because back then you'd have to actually get the negative scanned, and not even scanned. You'd have to have it all made up. You'd send in the neg and do the whole things, or send in a copy of the image. And I ran a big ad about Richmond's premier garden portrait studio. And everything was garden portrait studio, garden portrait studio. Everybody else was indoors on white backgrounds or pink backgrounds or whatever. And we just pushed that. And to this day, people will go, oh, you're the garden portrait studio. But it took a long time. It didn't just, you know, catch on. Now, you also know 25 years ago, if you ran a really nice ad, it actually got a lot of traction. Why? There wasn't this, right? Where we didn't have phone. We weren't scrolling through. There wasn't social media. So there wasn't even a website at this point, you know, so they would look at it and go, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? So if people would see it, you know, now if I were to do it all over today, I don't know, I'd have to really think how that would work, but I just started building that. And we were, you know, I always say, I don't like to stand out, but I love to be outstanding. We were outstanding because nobody else was talking about being outdoors. As a matter of fact, predominantly back then, it was a male dominated. I knew very few female photographers when I first got into the industry. Very, very few. I know of one that was in Richmond. And they were kind of didn't want to drag all their stuff and go outside. So the fact that we were creating these beautiful portraiture outside, well lit, well handled, was a big deal. So that's what I knew I needed to do. If I could build that brand, if I could build that, you know, that qualifier, how we stood out in that outstanding way, that they would come, and they did, you know. And the good news is that we've been incredible. I'm grateful that we've had the studio we've had for so many years and been really and truly incredibly profitable and sustainable for all these years. But we've never lost that. Even now that most people don't photograph indoors, that's still such a big part of our identity and our brand in the community that I still talk about it as if we're the only ones, which we're certainly not anymore, but really held on to that truth that we were.
So where did you get your business and financial knowledge then as well? Because, you know, it's not often you see that side of it and the marketing side plugged together in one person.
Yeah. Well, you know, the business and financial side, I mean, yeah, I went to school, I did all these things. It's probably from kind of like hard knocks, you know, like I didn't grow up having that. We worked for all of it. And you either, when you grow up that way, and I was newly married and little kids and, you know, we're struggling, and, you know, either you learn how not to be back in that space, or you don't, you know. And I guess for me, what I knew is I didn't want my family to worry. So if I could learn what not to do, you know, then I could try to save them from that. And I don't know how else to describe it. Like, you know, I'm not an accountant. I don't love numbers. I don't love math. That's never been my thing, but I understand what it means to save. I understand what it means to, just because I bought a camera today. I save, I buy a camera. Tomorrow, what do? Well, you start saving for the next one because that camera is going to break, right? That's how we grew up. Like, you know, literally that mason jar philosophy I talk about, like, you know, and I had a great teacher, and I have to share right now. Ann Monteith was my first teacher when I got into this industry. And I remember her telling the story about her mother wanting a dishwasher and saving every week in her mason jar, and bought a dishwasher. And she was so excited for her mom. She finally got that dishwasher. And then the next paycheck, she put money in that jar, and she's like, Mom, you got the dishwasher. And she goes, but it'll break one day. And that, I mean, that story has made me so successful in so many ways. But that wasn't math and accounting. Like, I get that. So you just, you have to be smart. Obviously now profit first. I mean, it's really what we've always done, but now I can put a name on it. But yeah.
And that's where I was going to go next. I was literally going to go to profit first.
Yeah.
That must have made so much sense then to you when you
Yes.
saw it.
I was already doing it. I mean, definitely profit first. And this, profit first, and, reading Mike's book and going through all that definitely made me name it and do it a better, but I was already doing it. You know what I mean? And, I don't mess around. And also growing up the way I did, you don't mess around with the tax man. Like, I remember growing up and hearing my grandfather, or you don't mess with the tax man, you pay your tax. I'd never just do right, do right things, do things right. So it just, you pay your taxes, you put your tax money away. That's the first thing that gets put away in my life. I know profit's supposed to come first, but believe me, the taxes are always going to get paid, because I'm afraid. Like, I don't know what would actually even happen to me, but even today at 52 years old, I still am worried about that tax man. I don't know who he is or who she is, but I grew up being so incredibly afraid of that person. So, I just took all of that great knowledge that was given to me by my grandparents, my mom. I lost my dad at a really early age, so it was just my mom and sister and I trying to get through, and God bless her, she did not. She learned everything the hard way, and hence we got to learn it through her. But yeah, profit first was a great thing, and highly recommended, as you know.
So for our guests who are with us, watching us live, or those on repeat, why do you think profit first works so well?
Profit first is one of the things that have come along in my time in this industry, or in business, or as a small business owner, as we know now, a very small business owner. When we went through this pandemic and we looked at small businesses, I was like, yeah, that's a small business, then what in the heck am I? Because there's two of us. So we're a gig business or micro business. The thing is, and I think you understand this, in this industry, I don't feel that we value ourselves. We don't pay ourselves. We go, oh, I'm doing it. Oh, if I'm doing it, I don't need to worry about that in my costs, et cetera, et cetera. You get this. Hopefully anybody listening to this has heard this, and you're going, yeah, I did that. Guys, if Profit First does nothing, I think it really drives home the importance of paying ourselves and putting ourselves first. We are doing a job. Not one of us I don't think any one of us would go to work for a local office, a local bank. Okay. I go to work for the bank, and I just work, and put in my time. And then payday rolls around and they're like, oh, sorry, we're fresh out. We're nothing this week. And I go, okay. And then I go back. No, eventually I'm not that dumb. I'm going to go, yeah, no, we're done. Nobody who does jobs, who in the heck out there wants to do a job and not get paid, not get rewarded, not have any gain? Like, that makes no sense to me. So the fact that we don't value that and put that first, profit, or even, owner's salary, all that stuff, is amazing to me. So profit first, if nothing else, if you read the book, if you really study it, I've seen a lot of shifting, at least people that I've talked to, going, I get it. You're right. I am entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneurial poverty. You know what I mean? And just because, they never put themselves first. So I hope that's what Profit First does for us, because I see that so much in this industry. I've seen it for so long, and it's just it'll bankrupt you emotionally and, physically as well as financially. So I think it could fix a lot of that,
The other thing I've seen with Profit First, Mary, is, it's quite, as entrepreneurs, which we are, quite often, we chase the sale saying eventually the profit will come. And I've been in so many scenarios where that has not been the case, because you're just, your overheads and your operating expenses just keep growing with it and sometimes pass it out, right? Pass
Yeah.
out the revenue.
Yeah, definitely.
So what I found with Profit First is it just changes your mindset to say, no, I have to make my profit. And therefore, this is what I've left to run my business on
Right.
rather than the other way around. And for me, that was a game changer because, you and I have talked about this so many times, but like I started life wanting to be an accountant and studying
Yes.
accountancy, and then realized it wasn't for me. So I have a good basis in accountancy, but it never made sense to me. It never made
Right.
sense. Like you've got your profit and loss account and your balance sheet and your cash flow statement, and my daughter's just qualified as an accountant there in the last couple of weeks. She passed her finals first time. But I've said to her, I think you guys have just designed this so us poor business plebs don't understand it, so we have to hire you to do it.
I
But
don't
profit,
disagree.
but
Yes.
profit first just takes all that away, and it makes sense to normal business people like us.
Yes. Average, normal business people. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, the cool thing is that I've always been so passionate about getting paid. Like it's a priority. But I think people are hearing it. Anybody who tunes into that program, they're hearing it for the first time, maybe, which, but it makes it so easy. And, it's simple, and I can do it. It's simple. There's 2 days of the month. I just move my money to where it needs to go and then, go forward. And you're right. If those expenses surpass, then I need to look at my general expenses, not my paycheck, not my tax money, my general expenses, and go, okay, something's got to give this month. What do I need to do? Do I need to raise my prices? Do I need to look at different vendors? Do I need to get rid of the yard guy or cable or whatever it is? We have to make those choices. But before Profit First, I think people would just take from their bank account, their home, their bank, they're making a living, take from that to feed this machine. And the other thing I can't agree more is that machine needs to be fed all the time. And it's up to you to discipline it, discipline our business so that it's only being fed what's in our bank account, what we can afford to feed it, because it can go crazy. And as photographers, as you know, we'll go to a trade show and our salary goes out the window and we've got a new mirrorless camera, but we didn't get a paycheck this week. Well, that's never going to be me. Like, I don't need a new camera that bad, and I always say, if it's not going to make me prettier, younger, or richer, I don't need it. As long as my existing equipment's, doing okay, then I'd much rather have the money in my bank than give it to Canon or whoever.
So Mary, you obviously, you're an expert in the financial side, using Profit First and all that side of the business. But I get the impression that your true love is marketing. Am
Yeah.
I right or wrong?
Yeah. So another of my other favorite books from Mike Michalowicz is help me, Clockwork,
Oh,
right? Clockwork.
which one? Clockwork, yeah.
Yeah. And this is why. When Jamie and I sat down and really established our QBR, right? Our queen bee role, which I love that it's a queen bee, which is a girl. And I'm like, oh, power. But no, our QBR, if I only could do one thing in my business and everything else would be hired out. What is it that I need to do? And it's shocking because I think a lot of people think, well, you gotta be one taking the pictures. Not even close. Not even close. So when I really broke that down and did the hard work, and didn't just, that what I am in this business, my QBR is to be a visionary. Obviously, marketing and branding and all that falls along in there. But if I'm not visioning where we are and where we're going, then I don't know that we would continue to be as successful as we are. Does that make sense? Like,
Yes.
that's what I need. And Jamie, surprisingly, as talented as he is, and breathing, photography for him is like breathing. His is the design. The fact that he can go in and meet with you and design the most incredible installation of portraiture, that's really where he shines. And then he can create it and he can paint it and he can do all those things, but it's the design. But for me, it's to be a visionary for Hayes and Fisk, and visioning. Obviously, marketing falls in there and branding falls in there. So that is what I'm incredibly passionate about, is looking forward and seeing an idea and and taking it, putting my thumbprint on it, making it mine, right? Making it mine, and how I can develop that, shrink it down, make it bigger, so that that's something that fits into this business that we've built, and make us even stronger, better, more profitable, etc. So visionary is probably what I'm the most passionate about being.
And you've said something really important there that a lot of people miss, is that, you know, it's not possible to copy someone else because you're different than them, but you can see something that they're doing and you can take it and make it your own.
100%. And, you know, guys, hopefully you guys, I mean, you have so many amazing guests on here, and I'm sure you have people, and they come on and they talk about what they did. They did what this amazing thing, project, marketing thing they worked on last week. And you have somebody tuning in and they go, yeah, but I'm in this town and I'm a solopreneur and I don't have, there's all these buts. We have so many. And instead, if you just would listen and go, that's a really good idea. That fits in, like that speaks to me. How can I make that mine and fit into my one-man show, my small town, my style of photography, whatever. We don't do that. We're so quick as human beings, I think, to go, no, that's a great idea. That works for you, but that would never work for me. Well, why? The way I do this, yeah, you're right. That may never work for you because you're so much bigger, further along, or your brain, whatever. But if it's a good idea, it's still a good idea. Mold it into a good idea for you. You know what I mean? And then be inspired. Take the inspiration. I mean, I am so inspired, but I love other photographers and I'm inspired by them daily. But when I really get a huge wow for our business, it's because I look at Apple or Coca-Cola or, Tiffany and Company. I'm looking at them and I go, ha, that's amazing. Now, can I produce that, $30 a piece catalog? No, but boy, I can take that idea and I can put my thumbprint on it and I can run with it and make it a great idea for my little tiny business. You know what I mean? And I think if we spent more time visioning how we can do that and trying to make it ours instead of just saying, that won't work for me. That's not for me. That won't work for me. Gosh, we'd all be a lot happier. I think a lot more successful. But
I think you've said something so important there, Mary, because we get tunnel vision in our industry, don't we? And we don't sort of look outside it. And there's so much learning that we can see outside of our industry and bring it into our industry and make it our own and make a difference.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We can't. I mean, I'm looking at it. I have a stack of incredible, glossy, beautiful magazines, marketing pieces that I've received from luxury companies. If you're a PPA member, I think the program is actually on the education site because it was recorded. It was called Sifting Through the Noise. And the whole program was talking about taking that idea and how to make it your own. What I end up with looks nothing like what, Neiman Marcus sent me last Christmas, but it's amazing for my little corner of the world. And it says everything I want it to say. It's on brand. And I think it cultivates and curates the right kind of clients, which is a luxury buying client in Richmond, Virginia, because I'm a luxury product in Richmond, Virginia. So it's just taking that idea and running with it instead of discounting it as that won't work for me. I don't know. I guess, you know what, Ronan? I don't want to be, I'm going to get emotional all of a sudden, but if I had believed all that brain trash when I was growing up or where I came from, or I believed that, I wouldn't be here.
Yes.
Because you can't listen to that. I'm sorry. It's just like, I can't believe that me, just Mary Fisk, who comes from where I come from, but had the most loving and adoring family, and had the best friends in the world. But I can't believe that I sit here and have what I have. I have I have the car, I got both cars that I wanted. I have an amazing business. I'm going to be PPA president in March. You know, it's like, how in the world does I have a beautiful home and amazing kids? And I think, well, why? Well, I worked hard. Yeah, I worked hard. Well, I'm kind of smart. Yeah, I'm kind of smart. But you know what? I never let any of that carry me but for so long. You know what I mean? Like, people can be mean. I mean, we all were bullied. We all have insecurities. We all have these things. But when you start letting it guide you and be your vision, you're out. Right? I mean, yeah, then you can believe that all day long. And then when we start talking to ourselves that way, if I listen to what others say, I'm out.
I know you've surrounded yourself with really good people, right?
Yes.
Not only within your family are amazing. I know them so well, but even like the fact that you've been like, you're a true expert in what you do, yet you're always open to listen to other people and see how they're doing things. And, you know, even you're going to Donald Miller and becoming a story brand guide and becoming a profit first professional. And where does that urge for lifelong learning come from? Because a lot of people, like, they finish college and they say, that's it, I'm done, you know?
Well, a lot. So first of all, I would still be in school if I could. I would, my mom was worried I was going to just be a professional student. Like, I love school. I was that kid. I was that adult. I was that 20-something. I love learning, and nothing, well, there's a lot, but one of the most exciting things for me is, like, StoryBrand's a great example. I read that book. Thank you, Gregory Daniel, for telling me about that book. I read that book several years ago, and it was like, mind blown. And I love marketing. And honestly, at that point, I was like, God, this traditional marketing, which has changed a lot. My traditional marketing has gone from running an ad in the newspaper to, you know, trying to be social media savvy. So it's definitely shifted and changed, but it wasn't working as well. And I knew something was missing, and that was the missing link. So now it's like, it just locked in and I could not get enough. And because, in my opinion, when I really dug in and implemented StoryBrand into my business, it made me so much more money. It made it easier to do business, and it made my life easier. The first thing I thought is, how can I help other small people, small business owners like me do this? So I felt like I needed that certification to get the cred. Plus, I really wanted to go hang out with Donald Miller and learn. Same thing with Profit First. I mean, quite frankly, I've said many a time, when I'm kind of done with this cycle of my life, I wouldn't be surprised if I went back to school, got my PhD, or tried to go into, you know, I'll be like a 60, 70-year-old, you know, teaching, or, you know, I would go. I mean, I during the pandemic, I applied to some schools, and I was like, maybe I'll just go back to school. This photography thing's getting on my nerves. And so I wouldn't be surprised. Who knows what I'll end up doing, but you know, I love to be able to go to conferences. I know this year it'll be obviously online, which we'll talk about, but I'm always learning, you know, and especially now where I am at my age. I mean, thank goodness I have people like Kira Berry in my life, who's younger and way more hip and understands all the social media. Thank goodness for my kids. I mean, I learn stuff from my kids every single day, but I think when your mindset is closed and not growth, like, right, when you're not shifted into, I mean, I'm constantly, how can my mind be in a growth mindset versus, you know, closed down and I've got it all figured out. I promise you this, I don't have anything figured out, but I'm trying every day, you know?
I know exactly how you feel. So I think what you're saying to us is, you know, the real secret is that you have to have that growth and open mindset. If you're closed-minded and you just are negative, well, sorry.
You're going to get what you get, you know, and I hate to say this, but it's kind of like, we all probably know those people in our town, our community, or our affiliates or something that just didn't, they're not even open to the change. And I've seen it. So in my career, Jamie and I've seen people that did not believe in a website, did not believe in digital photography, did not believe in social media. I would venture to say that none of them are still here. And I don't have to love it, but I do need to grow with it in order to continue, because I'm not out yet. I'm not done yet. You know, when I'm done, I don't know. I don't think I'll stop learning, but maybe I'll go learn something else. I don't know.
But I don't know what it's like on your side of the pond, but on our side of the pond, when I see third level education in photography, they don't teach any business,
No.
none whatsoever. I don't know what it's like in the US, but the whole curriculum needs to be rewritten and some business, sales, and marketing built in there.
We talk about that all the time. We actually talked about this at our last PPA board meeting, just how can we get some of our education in these kids' hands? Because you can be so incredibly talented, but that does not mean anything, unfortunately. I mean, even some of the greatest artists right now, currently, modern day artists, they have a brilliant marketer and brand ambassador on their side. And that's why they rose above all the other incredibly talented artists. I mean, it's now more than ever, as busy and as frantic as our lives are, you have to have someone that can get in there and get you noticed. And that's not easy to do, you know? So I don't know.
So I think we're firmly in the present now, Mary. So what do you think about our industry right now, and what are you seeing? Because, you know, you're involved in so much stuff. I think you probably have your finger on the pulse of our industry. What are you seeing right now out there?
Yeah, and I'm involved in a lot of creative groups, which is really cool. So my heart is hurting right now for my event, wedding, and volume photographers. It hurts because they have, whether you're a photographer, you're a planner, a florist, you know, whatever it is, if that was your niche, and there's some that do it so well, this year is just a terrible year. So that is a tough space. That's a tough space. Now, because schools didn't open, so maybe school photographers aren't, you know what I mean? So there's just a lot of things. So hopefully, and what I've tried to share is, if that's the niche you were in, it was incredibly important to pivot as fast as you can and find some sort of a side hustle or something else that you can, you know, inject into your business until things get back to whatever normal is going to be. Now, us as portrait photographers, I feel like this is a great example in another time, and I shared with you earlier, another time in our lives, we're turning this downturn or turning this time into a positive. It works in our favor, because more than ever right now, I'm finding people, I mean, in droves coming in and wanting, needing, and understanding how important a family portrait is, the children's portraits are, and capturing these legacies and milestones. Why? Because we've gone through incredible loss of not just the time we spent quarantined or whatever, but, you know, losing friends and family and coworkers across this country. And I've just noticed that more than ever, people are valuing what we do so much. And I told you, and I'll say it again, it was kind of like after 9/11 here in the US. After 9/11, that fall was one of the biggest falls we've ever had. And I will bet you right now that this will exceed it. But it's because when you experience that much pain and loss, it brings everything into focus on what's important. And for us, it's the family. You know, I mean, that's what's important to me. I couldn't get a family portrait done fast enough. I mean, I did it, you know, and because I was just so grateful to have everybody home and healthy. And I'm seeing that with my clients. So, you know, if you are a portrait photographer, now's the time to talk about it. And that's one thing. And I told you, during the whole quarantine, I knew if I just showed and talked about the importance of family portraiture and how I could fix that problem so they would never regret it, you know, throwing that story brand spin in, that it would pay off. And it definitely has. I mean, we had our biggest September ever, and October is, I mean, we've already exceeded it double. So it's people are out there. And even though some of us were not working during that time, there were a lot of people that were, and they were not just working, they were working overtime, and they were getting paid, you know, so the economy here, there are still people out there that are spending. So, you know,
And I think
take
that's
that.
something. I think that's something that, you know, if we watch the news all the time, regardless of what the station is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all we see is the economy has died by this and nobody has any money. But that's not true.
It's
And
not.
there's so many people who not only have money, but they also have this new, not new, but it's sort of rekindled
Uh-huh.
love of who's important and significant to them, those
Yeah.
relationships.
I mean, a
And
tragedy always puts things in focus. I mean, how many times have you had to go to you visit somebody or go to a funeral? It's a terrible example, but you go to a funeral and you're like, why don't we get together more? It's ridiculous that it took this, but a downturn this, and I'm not trying to take advantage of anything. It is what we've always done, but I think now more than ever, people are incredibly rekindled, or they've reprioritized because we're busy, and we assume we got tomorrow. And I think if this year's proven that's not guaranteed, that in your head, or you know what I mean, but you just go, oh, we got tomorrow, we'll do it next year, we'll do it next week, we'll do it next Christmas. And then something like this happens and you think, oh no, not another day, it's too important.
so, Mary, let's move on to the future. And I suppose we can talk about the future in terms of weeks, days, months, years,
Right. Yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about imaging first, right? So
Yeah,
imaging is going to be virtual in January.
it
Um,
is.
and you as a board member, you've been instrumental in as part of the team in figuring all that out, and first of all switching from a live event to a virtual event. And
Yeah.
is there anything you can tell us about it without breaking any confidences as being a board member? Or
I can tell you that was a really hard decision. And as a board member, we were definitely part of that decision. From there, I can tell you and promise you without any hesitation whatsoever, PPA has the most amazing staff and team, and they are going to knock this out of the park, because that's just how PPA is. So the platform that's being used, it's guys, this is not going to be another Zoom call or webinar. Not that there's anything wrong with this. This is going to be an incredibly virtual experience that is like nothing I've ever seen before. I mean, you're going to feel like you're walking into the lobby, and there's going to be the trade show, and there's going to be specials, and there's going to be not just the education, but guess what? For the first time ever, you don't have to pick. So when I look at my schedule and I go, well, Ronan's on, but then Kira's on, and there's the same time I have to pick. You don't have to do that, because these are going to live on for 30 days, and you can go see Ronan today, and next week you can catch, somebody else's program that you're interested in. We've never been able to do this, and it's going to be so incredibly well done. You've been on the calls. We're all, pre-recording, but then we're going to be available for live Q&A, which quite frankly, that doesn't happen much in imaging either, because it is, you're hopping off the stage and you got to get out of there because the next person's coming, and then you have to be here or there. We'll be able to just to chat for 30 minutes, and answer questions and share. And if they miss something because I talk too fast, we can go back and listen to it again. There's just going to be so many things. And I promise you that PPA doesn't do anything halfway. It is going to be over the top. It's going to be as much of a sensory experience as they can make online. And I know what we're investing in it. Like, this is not going to save PPA any money, because I know what we're investing into making this the best experience for our members. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be amazing.
it costs us so little, Mary. What is it? Is it $56 or 50?
69 or 40, 60. I don't know. It's under $100, and you get access for 30 days to some of the top speakers. And guys, not just like people, Dave, thanks, Dave, 59. Thank you. So our platform, our gap speakers, we're bringing in some amazing inspirational and business speakers that are, respected worldwide, not that there's anything wrong with us photographer speakers, but there's just some amazing keynotes that they're bringing in, and they're not holding anything back. I know that, David and Scott and the team at PPA, the whole event team, they're going to make this, and it's just going to be amazing. I can't wait.
So without giving anything away, and tell me to stay quiet because we haven't rehearsed any of this, right?
We have it.
So you know the way the parties are really, really important at
Mhm.
imaging. Is there
There will
something that
be
you're
some,
planning?
yes. So I don't even know yet exactly what it is, but there will be some entertainment and there will be some live appearances and there will be an MC that will be guiding you through. I think there's going to be some live things happening from headquarters down in Atlanta. And I've heard lots of ideas. I'm not sure what's going to stick, but there's going to be some fun. They're going to make it as fun as we can, sitting, so you can put your jammies on and kick back with the drink of your choice and enjoy music, or maybe there'll be magic or juggling. I don't know. It's going to be fun though.
So next March, then you become president of PPA, and how lucky
Barring a
PPA,
scandal, yes.
how lucky PPA and all its members are to have you as their president. But I'd love to just delve into, you know, if you'd a magic wand as president, what would you like to see happen?
I would like I hope that in March, I hope that we have a vaccine. I hope that we're traveling again and we're gathering in person. I don't know if that'll happen, but nothing would make me happier than for us to have a year of conventions and meetings in person so that I can, not only me, but my amazing current president, Gregory Daniel, incoming chairman of the board, that there's so many events happening in person that him and I can divide and conquer and get out and meet people and see people and talk to people like in person. As much as I love this and I'm so grateful for the Zooms and all of this, I miss being able to be at people's events and, cheers, you know what I mean? Like
Yes,
I
I
miss that.
do.
So if I have a magic wand, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that we can safely do that and get back to, being in person. And if it doesn't, we're going to make it as good as we can make it. But if I had a magic wand, that's what I would get is a vaccine to make us safer and be able to travel again.
So, what do you see the role of president being? I know, like it's documented, we've had wonderful presidents over the years, but every president is slightly different, right? So, is there something in particular that you're passionate about that you want to be able to say, okay, in my year as president, it was like that, and now it's like this? Is there something like that you really want to address?
That's a really good question. I'm incredibly passionate about so much that PPA does. I really am. I actually just wrote an article for Dave last night about all the things, and it just, um, you know, I'm so incredibly passionate about education. This is going to come as no surprise. As much as I love image competition and certification and all these things, education for me is just the key to everything. Like it's the key to my success as a human being, as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, a photographer, whatever. And so I hope that I can go out because I can. That's what the president does. The president travels and gets out and shaking hands and kissing babies. Ralph, that's what Ralph used to call it. But to be able to go out and share, give a program and share Story Brand or Profit First, something that I hope somebody hears and goes back and goes, I'm going to do that. Just like it was given to me, right? It was given to me that I'm going to do that. And then one day they're going to be like, I am for the first time profitable, or I'm now paying myself, or the next PPA president, because they heard something, they were inspired by my journey and story, and they actually implement it. That would be the best feeling in the world if that's what happens, and I think it can, any way you look at it, it can happen. But Greg and I are very business minded. So I think my president's messages will kind of be like his, like talking about business and how to be more successful. That's definitely what I'm comfortable talking about. I think that'll be the same. And I think probably if Greg had been able to travel, he would have been very focused on good sound business as well. But hopefully I'll get to do it. If not, I'll do as much as I can virtually and make it better. But education and using the education. And there's so much on that PPA platform and people don't even realize. I mean, there's so much information there and great programs and great sound good advice. Angela Kirkian, our director of education, she curates the best of the best. Like she has the most amazing things. So yeah, I'm not an agenda driven person. Like people who always say, well, I'm an agenda, I always think that's because you have to be fluid, because look at this year.
Yes.
you just have to be fluid. So I don't necessarily have an agenda, but if I have a priority, it's to disrupt this industry of being
So
poverty, entrepreneurial poverty.
yes, I think what you're saying to me is that people in our industry, has a greater understanding of the need for the business of photography skills as much as the artistic photography skills. Would that be?
Yes. Like, let's spend as much time learning how to make sure our taxes are paid and make sure our financials are straight as we do learning how to, use Photoshop. Like, if you could just give it equals billing, like that would make me so happy. And I know that that's not necessarily a thing. And the good news, guys, is if that's not your thing, then, you can't afford not to hire somebody to make it a priority. And people don't always agree with that, but, I outsource so much. Like I don't retouch. That's not my job. I can easily pay somebody to do that, but no one can vision or market or brand for this business better than me. Hands down,
So Mary, for our industry, not to give anything away about your business, right? So, and I know you look in the future to see where you might bring your business, but the industry as a whole, what do you think is ahead of us, say, in 10 years' time? If we got into our space machine, our time machine now, and we went forward to 2030, what do you think where will our industry be? Will the photography industry still be there? And if it is, why? And what will it look like, do you think?
Any of us that are incredibly branded as product creators will be here, I believe. Now, our products may shift and change. I 100%, and I know this because I've spent time with you and I got blindsided with it when I visited in Ireland, and it forced me to think about something that I needed to. Our products might change, which is exactly why we started digitally painting, and we started doing a lot of things preparing us that if down the road there's digital wallpaper or, there's houses without walls or whatever the heck, that we were still creating professional fine art portrait work, that we're creating something that's, got our thumbprint on it, meaning it's well posed, it's well lit, it's painted, it's got our special touches that they can't get from their phone, they can't get from, anybody else, hopefully, that they still will come to us. I hope we're still selling beautiful framed canvases, but I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, there's too many industries that have gone by the wayside and were blindsided, which shouldn't have been, but were blindsided because they were extinct. They no longer were necessary. Just in a short time, I was talking to somebody the other day, I've gone from burning CDs to USBs, and now I'm like, what's next? I have stacks of, branded, CDs that we used to deliver. And now we've got our, flash drives from 3XM, but most of your new computers don't take those now. So always thinking ahead. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be selling those files or selling those products. And I think if you stay product driven, whatever that is, and be open to the fact that it might be a wholly digital product moving forward, but you're not discounting it because it's not printed. So I'm taking the focus off the medium that it's on, the focus is on, I've designed and created this for you. How do you want it? Great. They want it on a, they want it, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same amount of money.
I do know what you're saying. And I'm going to try and translate, and correct me if I'm wrong. Right?
Okay.
Because we haven't discussed this bit either, right? So I think what you're saying to me is that humans aren't going to change. They're still going to want to reflect those relationships that are important to them.
Right.
The medium in which that art is created and delivered may change, but the skill to be able to capture that and present that is still going to be required.
100%. I spend the same amount of brain power, creativity, time, and energy to create this for you. And if you want it on paper, canvas, metal, digitally, and I don't just sell digital files yet, so don't get, guys, but I'm open to that being maybe the future. That's the same price, right? It's not, I don't differ. I'm getting less and less differentiating between how it's delivered. Whatever car it drives out in, it's still the same price. So you pick, you know, I could see us maybe moving into that, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not discounting it because I'm not uploading it to my lab and having it printed on XYZ. It's the same price. I spent the same amount, and you can't get it from anybody else because you know why? I created it. And any way you look at it, people can copy each other all day long. If you are passionate about the art of photography, your styles should be recognizable. I can see a Tim Walden and know it's a Tim Walden in the heart. I mean, I'm scrolling up. Tim posted. I mean, I know. You know, Elizabeth Homan. I know. I could see it a mile away. Gregory Daniel. You know, so hopefully people feel that way about Mary and Jamie. Maybe.
I think we have a question, Mary. I haven't read
Okay.
it. So, hi, Mary. You say profit first, which is amazing and something I need to get my head around. On your website, you do not show a price list. Do you think it puts clients off seeing a price list on your website? That's a question.
I think our website might have a range if you dig deep, and Don calls it, and I love the junk drawer. I think at some point it says gift print start at or wall art starts at. I don't know that it's a problem. My senior studio, our volume studio, our catalog is on there and the pricing is on there because that's a group that price shops a little more. Hayes and Fisk is at the point in our business where most people don't call us unless they are looking to put something above the fireplace or the sofa or in the foyer, etc. Because pretty much all I show is us working with clients or installing large pieces. So I don't get a lot of price shoppers, if that makes sense. So my prices would definitely shop people, I think, if they're just shopping. But people who are really seeking what we do, which is the majority of what we get at this point, they already know. They know it's going to be expensive. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It really depends on your business model. I very much, though, in an email or a conversation, will share pricing. We do have a price list, and I have not ashamed of my prices. But I think they could be a barrier out of the gate. So I do kind of hold those until I can hopefully have a chat with them.
So Dave wants to know, hi Davey, good to see you. And Davey wants to know that like being president of PPA, it's a massive commitment. So what made you want to take on that responsibility?
I have always loved being a part of the, you know, if I may say, in the room where it happens. Like I'm definitely that Hamilton kind of girl. So I love being a part of the decision making. I think I have a distinct voice. I think that I've got the experience, and I'm an incredibly blessed and lucky that I have an amazing supportive family, but I have a great business partner. So leading up to this, I have curated a life that will allow me to my business will not suffer if I'm traveling and doing this. We've prepared for this for years. So my clients, I've already started. I only have like 10 days a month that I'm actually photographing and working in person with clients. I've already started a really awesome frictionless system where I'm doing most of my consultations and sales online, even before COVID. So we had already started that so that I didn't sacrifice my money, my income when I moved into this position. So kind of like I can laptop live, if that makes sense. I can do that and keep my business going.
Because that has to be a challenge, right? I'm sure there's been past presidents who it's been a struggle to get the business going again afterwards.
I've seen that happen to too many, and I would not let that happen to me. And you know, Jamie is an amazing photographer, so I'm not by myself in this. When you're by yourself in it, it's a little bit more of a challenge, but it can be done. I've seen people do it very successfully, so it can happen.
So Mary, I know you offer mentoring to business owners, not just photographers, other business owners as well. So if somebody wants to make contact with you, how do they go about that?
Well, they can, they can just, I have a website. It's Fisk-Taylor.Cr. So they can email me from there or message me on social media, Mary Fisk-Taylor on Facebook or Insta. Yeah, definitely do consulting and love it. I love it. And it's always so rewarding. I hope for both of us, but I always get a lot out of it as well, just because I love to be able to give back. And guys, again, I didn't invent any of this. It's all been given to me. You kind of pointed out I'm a seeker of greatness, and I've had so many great, amazing people and that give, and I, make it my own. And I'm honored and thrilled when I can share it and then, do the same, because that's what keeps us all hanging in there, I guess.
Mary, thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome.
I just give my love to all your family.
I will. We miss you.
I can't wait. I can't wait till we get together again.
I can't wait. There will not be enough wine in this world.
That's it. There'll
get together.
Be a case of Pinot Noir. Like
yes. Yay.
And
I didn't get to see all the comments, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I know everybody's hopefully super duper busy, but thanks for all your kind words, everyone. And thank you for continuing to do this and bring all this greatness into our lives every week. I know I enjoy catching up on the recordings when I can't catch it live, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you for joining us, Mary, and we'll see you all soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, everybody, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, y'all.